Welcome back, Horlings, to another Let's Read Fighting Fantasy Game Book number 2, The Citadel of Chaos. The Citadel of Chaos is a fighting fantasy game book, an interactive adventure in which you are the hero. You can only win by choosing the correct path, finding equipment, avoiding traps, and surviving combat. You will need to be as wise as an owl and as cunning as a weasel to triumph over the challenges ahead of you. Alright, so if you've watched the first two of these, you know the drill. We're going to do Adventurer, and we're going to roll Stamina. Not too bad. Roll of 8. Let's hopefully we get some good skill here. It could be worse. And luck. Not the greatest luck. We got a luck of 8. Now we must roll our magic. The Citadel of Chaos, in addition to skill, stamina, and luck, you must also determine your magic score. We have a magic of 11, and we're going to choose our spell scrolls. We're going to take Levitate. For example, let's see, your score of magic, how many scrolls you can take. Choose 10 more spells. Okay. We'll take another Levitate. We'll take some ESP. That's 3, 4, 5. We'll take some Restore Luck. Some Restore Stamina. Do we have Fool's Gold, Illusion, Enhanced Strength, Mage's Fire? Let's take one of those. Let's take a Shielding. There we go. Alright, you begin your adventure with a sword, leather armor, a backpack, and a lantern to light your way. Unlike most fighting fantasy adventures, in Citadel of Chaos you begin your adventure without provisions. Normally provisions may be consumed at any time by accessing the adventure sheet and restoring 4 stamina. As a budding wizard, you instead have access to restore stamina spell scrolls. These restore 5 stamina when used and can be cast at any time, excluding combat. Be sure to pay close attention to your stamina and restore it regularly. Your restore skill and restore luck spell scrolls can be used in a similar fashion. Simply select them from the adventure sheets when you wish to restore those scores. Although you'll be able to view all your other spell scrolls through your adventure sheet, they will only be usable during certain moments throughout your adventure. During your quest, you may encounter characters and items that alter your 3 scores: stamina, skill, and luck. Usually, these scores may only ever be restored to their initial amount. On very rare occasions, a particular page may grant an effect that defies this rule. Aside from these occasions, some magic items may also allow you to exceed your initial scores. Once you've readied your shit, let's fucking go. The lawful good folk of the Vale of Willow have lived here for some 8 years in awe and fear of the demi-sorcerer Balthus Dire. In awe since his power is truly awesome, and in fear ever since word leaked from his domain that his ambitious plans of conquest were to commence with the Vale itself. A faithful half-elf sent on a spying mission to the Black Tower came galloping back to the Vale 3 days ago with a frantic warning. From within the caverns of Crag and Rock, Balthus Dire had recruited an army of chaotics and is preparing them to attack the Vale within a week. The good King Salomon was a man of action. Messengers were sent throughout the Vale that day to prepare the defenses and to summon folk to action. Riders had also been sent to the great forest of Yore to warn the half-elves who lived there and to make an appeal for allied forces. King Salomon was also a wise man. He knew well that the news would inevitably reach the Grand Wizard of Yore, a sorcerer of great power who lived deep within the forest. The wizard was old and would not last through a battle of this magnitude, but he schooled a number of young magicians and perhaps one of his students in the magic arts with courage and ambition would aid the king and his subjects. You are the star pupil of the Grand Wizard of yore. He's been a difficult master, and your own impatience has often gotten the better of you. Perhaps a little too headstrong, you left immediately for Solomon's court. The king welcomed you enthusiastically and explained his plan. The battle could be avoided without bloodshed if Balthus were to be assassinated before his army could be amassed. The mission ahead of you is extremely perilous. Balthus Dyers is surrounded in his citadel by a multitude of appalling creatures. Although magic is your strongest weapon, there will be times when you must rely on your sword to survive. King Solomon has briefed you on the mission and warned you of the dangers that lie ahead. One way through the Citadel is the best for you to take. If you discover it, you will be successful with the minimum of personal risk. It may take you several trips to find this route. You leave the Vale of Willow and begin the long hike to the Black Tower. At the foot of the hill of Crag and Rock, you can see its outline against the darkened sky. The sun sets, the twilight turns to darkness. You start your climb up the hills toward the forbidding shape silhouetted against the night sky. The Citadel is less than an hour's climb. Let's pause while the game hoarder drinks some beer. Fucking tasty. Some distance from its walls, you stop to rest. Gazing up at the fortress, a sense of dreadful foreboding fills your ballsack. Like a fearful specter from which there is no escape, the hairs on your neck and other places prickle as you look towards it. You brush your fears aside, and with grim resolve march onwards towards the main gate, where you know guards will be waiting. You consider your options. You've already thought about claiming to be an herbalist, come to treat the god with the fever. You could pose as a trader or artisan, perhaps a carpenter. You could even be a fucking nomad seeking shelter for the night. As you ponder the possibilities and the yarns you may have to spin to the gods, you reach the main trail leading up to the gates. 2 lanterns burn on either side of the portcullis. You hear muffled gruntings as you approach, and 2 Messipan creatures step forward. On the left stands an ugly-ass creature with the head of a dog and the body of a great ape, flexing its powerful arms. Its opposite number is indeed its opposite, with the head of an ape and the body of a large dog. This latter god approaches you on all fours. It stops some meters in front of you, raises itself on its hind legs, and addresses you. Which story will you opt for? Will you pose as an herbalist, a tradesman, or as a nomad seeking shelter for the night? Let's go with herbalist. The ape dog asked to see your herbs. Luckily, you grabbed a few handfuls of weeds on your way to show them. Cocking its head to one side, the creature eyes you suspiciously. It asks you for the name of the guard you have come to treat. Something you hadn't planned on. You quickly think of the name to bluff the creature with. And we go with Kiltrog. The ape dog laughs and tells you that Kiltrog is a lazy good-for-nothing son of a bitch and is not worth saving. You breathe a sigh of relief as he walks back and shouts for the gatekeeper. Moments later, the gatekeeper appears and opens a small doorway to let you in. You walk forward into a spacious open courtyard surrounded by large walls. Various lights are burning and groups of figures are shuffling around in the darkness. In the center of the courtyard is a large monument to some kind, perhaps a fountain. Looking across the yard, you see what appears to be the main entrance to the tower. Let's tiptoe through the shadows toward one of the groups. Cautiously and keeping well out of sight, you creep through the darkness around the edge of the courtyard. There are 2 groups of creatures in front of you. To the right, you can see 2 human-like figures talking under a torch fastened to the wall. To the left, a group of 4 creatures of varying shapes and sizes are sitting or under fire eating. Let's approach the group by the fire. A motley crew sit around the fire. A warty-faced orc is handing out scraggy chunks of half-cooked meat to the others. A snarling dwarf with green skin is complaining about the size of his piece, while 2 scruffy goblins, a man and woman, are cuddling each other. They giggle and laugh, and every so often she slaps his ugly fucking face, causing more merriment. As you approach, they stop and turn round to look at you with unwelcoming faces. They sneer at your neat appearance, and the female goblin whispers some comment to her companion. In front of the dwarf, you can see an open box. You can just make out a few rolled up pieces of parchment within. How will you respond to the cold reception? Let's sit down with them. They're taken aback by your audacity. Rather than waiting for them to talk, you act aggressively and demand to know how to get into the Citadel. They point to the main entrance, obviously a little bewildered by your confident manner, and whisper amongst themselves. The orc tells you that you'll need a password, scimitar, to get in. You ask about the contents of the box, whereupon they get agitated. And they want to kick you in the balls. Probably a good place to drop a bookie book. Alright, so press them for more information. Let's do that. The group becomes suspicious as you press them for information. The dwarf springs to his feet, brandishing a wooden club, while the goblins and orc grab swords and glare at you. You will have to fight them. You may use a magic spell. Now let's draw a sword and beat the shit out of them. Get him, Lug Lug. Oh, yeah. The dwarf is fucking dead. Now you must face the goblin. Oh, it's a draw. Goblin is fucking toast. The orc! Getting his dick kicked in, for sure. Afraid that the commotion of your battle may have attracted attention, you peer out into the darkness. Nothing seems to be happening. Going through the pockets of the creatures, you find 8 gold pieces, a copper-colored key, and a jar of dark, creamy ointment. It's the game where quarters come. Turning to a box, you can see the pieces of parchment within, which are inscribed with runes. Your heart leaps as you realize that these are spell scrolls, which, as you well know, are very valuable. Looking at them more closely, you are able to identify them as scrolls of creature copy and enhanced strength. You place them safely in your pack. Alright, so we got a copper key, a jar of creamy ointment, and a couple of spells. Let's go ahead and head toward the Citadel. You set off toward the Citadel. Although the night air is calm, you hear a faint whistling, which rapidly gets louder and louder until a strong gust of wind suddenly hits you with such a force you can barely move against. You shield your eyes until the blast retreats slightly, and you open them and see a ghostly female face inside what appears to be a living whirlwind. She mouths words at you, which you cannot make out, but some seconds after she has finished talking, the message reaches you. She seems to find your appearance offensive, and is challenging you with words of abuse. You grab at your sword, but she laughs. I will bitch slap her. I'm going to ignore her and continue walking. She is deeply insulted by your indifference. The whirlwind rises once more, and this time she knocks you off your cock blocker. You try crawling forward, but she positions herself in front of you whichever direction you turn. You'll have to try to outwit her, but how will you start? We'll make her anger obvious. She laughs again and tells you that she likes to see people getting angry. In good humor, she accompanies you for several meters. Conversation is difficult. She sees something in the distant shadows and nips off to investigate, allowing you to advance to the Citadel's main entrance. In front of you is a large wooden door, firmly locked. You may either knock 3 times for the god or use a strength spell to try to open it. I have a strength spell. But I also know the password. The door opens and a large brutish... Is that fucking Brocksteady? And Bebop? Brutish creature steps out. Its sharp horn in the middle of its forehead and its skin appears to be armor-plated. It grunts and asks you what you want and demands the password. We know the password. It is scimitar. The creature grunts its approval and opens the door to let you in. You're in a narrow hallway. This continues for several meters and ends in a doorway. Halfway along the passage, you can see an archway where some steps lead downwards. We'll go towards the door. You try the handle of the door and it turns, opening into another hallway. Some distance along the passageway turns to the right and ends shortly in another door. On this door is a sign which reads, "Please ring for butler." A rope, evidently a bell, hangs by the door. We'll ring the bell. After several moments, the door opens slowly, and a hunchback, misshapen creature with rotten teeth, ragged hair, and tattered clothes stands in front of you.
Yes, what can I do for you? Growls the
half-human creature.
I'm expected,
you reply, and walk past him through the door. He's a little bewildered, because you sound just like he did, by your manners and stammers, not knowing whether to challenge you or not.
Which way to the reception room?
You demand. He squints at you through one eye and motions towards a left fork in the passageway a short distance ahead.
Why are you mocking me?
We'll go ahead and believe the butler. The passage runs along for several meters and then ends at the door. You listen at the door and can hear a deep, heavy breathing coming from inside, as if some large creature were asleep in there. Cautiously, you try the handle and the door opens. Just inside, although the room is dark, you can see a very large goblin-like motherfucker asleep on the floor. Do you risk tiptoeing, or do you return to the fork and try the right hand? Let's tiptoe. You tiptoe into the room. The room is gloomy and the air is damp. A crude wooden post is nailed to one wall with several hooks in it. There are two doors in the far wall leading onwards. On the post hanging in the wall is a makeshift mirror, but as your torch lights up the mirror, its reflection is thrown across the eyes of a sleeping giant who grunts and stirs. One eye opens, then another, and seeing you, it springs to its feet. It grabs an axe, which it was using as a pillow, and quickly undoes the leather sheath to reveal a sharp bronze head. This giant creature is a Grok! Large and brute as Groks are half goblin, half giant, bred by master sorcerers for their aggressive character. Although somewhat stupid, they are rather tough beasts with a warlike nature. Let's use a spell. I'm going to cast weakness on him. You cast weakness spell with the aid of your scroll, and the creature stops in its tracks, not quite sure of what's happened with it. With some effort, it picks up its axe and comes towards you, but it is evidently not such a strong adversary as before. You draw your sword. You must finish the Gark off. Alright, we made him weaker. We're gonna kick his fucking ass, Seabass. Well, not that time. With the great Grok lies dead on the ground, you wait for a minute to see whether the commotion will attract any guards, but all appears to be safe. You go through the creature's effects and find little of value. Inside a pouch strung against its waist are 6 gold pieces and an ornate hairbrush. You add the shit to your haversack and continue onwards. Leaving the chamber, there are 2 doors in front of you. We'll go right. The door opens into a short passageway, which is paved with small stones. A short distance further on, an ornately carved door marks the end of a passageway. But just before the door, a side passage leads off to the left. You approach the door, listening for any signs of life. As you touch the handle, a voice says, "Do not knock, just enter!" from inside. Will you do as instructed, or will you decide against entering this room and take the passage leading off to the left? We are going to go in as instructed. You enter a room which is evidently a library of some sort. Books stretching from ceiling to floor. On each wall and several tables and chairs are lined down the center of the room. At the far end sits a dark-skinned man who looks up at you from a book over a narrow eyeglasses. Behind him is a door. "Yes, what is it?" he snaps. "Which book are you looking for?" You scan the various shelves which are labeled. Which book will you ask him for? The biographies of Balthus Dyer, the secrets of the Black Tower, or inquire for the creatures of the kingdom of Kraganarok. Let's go with the secrets of the Black Tower. He indicates a section of shelves, and you take a book to one of the tables to read through it. The book is most enlightening, tracing the history of the Citadel. The Black Tower was built by Balthus Dyer's grandfather. As it became a sanctuary for the forces of evil, law and order gradually made way for chaos as the monstrous creature battled their way up the power of hierarchy. Dyer's grandfather eventually found it necessary to protect himself from his minions by setting up various protective traps between the creatures and his own dwellings. Most notable of these being the Doom Pit Trap and a magical combination lock on the door to his own room. The combination of the lock is 217. You read further about the various secret passageways that permeate the Citadel. Then you may either choose to ask the librarian for the section of Balzac the Tsar Dyer by turning to 18, or request the section of the Creatures of Kragan, or you may leave the room and tell them to fuck off. Well. Let's see. Let me check out my mappy poo here. Should have checked out the map on the last one. Oh yeah. We should have made Ronstock for this because it's a mage, but oh well. All the scrolls and shit. We could probably change it. No? Player. There we go. There we go. We're good. It's fixed. Ah, yeah. Look at that. See how easy that was? I've been here the whole time. I've been in disguise as the stupid ass ogre Lug Lug. Alright, we should probably get out of here. You leave the room through the door at the far end, which opens into a short passageway, ending at a large wooden door. The handle on the door turns, letting you into a large chamber. The room you're in is some sort of grand dining hall. A long table, large enough to seat some 40 or 50 people, stands in the center. Edgewood chairs. Various doors and passageways lead from the room, but you are particularly interested in two wide staircases which lead up to either end of the balcony overlooking the hall. Paintings and suits of armor decorate the walls. The room is empty. Would you like to investigate anything? No, let's just take the right-handed stairs. The stairs are well worn and creak under your weight. Cautiously, you climb up the balcony. Along the balcony, there are 3 doors. Which would you like to take? The left door, duh. The locked door is very strong and made of solid oak. It's unlikely you'll be able to break it down, but you may try. Otherwise, you could use a strength spell. The lock is copper. You could try the copper key. The copper key fits perfectly, and it opens the door. The room is an elegant bedchamber, plushly decorated with fine lace and a fur carpet. In the center of the room is a large 4-poster bed. Sitting up in the bed, evidently awakened by all the commotion, is a beautiful sylph-like woman with long dark hair and deep piercing eyes. "What right have you in here?" she asked angrily. With those words, her eyes turn blood red, and 2 jets of liquid fire shoot directly from them at you. Okay. I tell her I have a special gift for her. And then I offer her the hairbrush. She looks at you offering... She looks at the offering and her eyes widen. "Let me see that," she commands. You carefully advance towards her and hold out the brush. She snatches it and spends several moments admiring it. "This is indeed a work of art," she says. She gets out of bed to try it in front of the mirror. She brushes her hair with it. Her hair takes on an unusual sheen, glimmering softly. She is fascinated with your gift, and now is your chance to leave unnoticed through the door in the far corner. As you head towards the door, your eyes catches a shiny object lying on the bed. It is the golden fleece. It may be useful on your quest. Yeah, I'm going to take it. You creep towards the bed, hoping to snatch the golden fleece while the woman is distracted with your gift. Let me just get it. You're lucky! You manage to swipe the valuable artifact before leaving the bedchamber. You leave the room and head down a short corridor. Some meters down, you find yourself at the foot of a staircase. This is a spiral staircase which leads right up to the Citadel Tower. You climb the stairs cautiously and eventually arrive on a small landing with 2 doorways in front of you. We'll take the left-handed door. The door opens, allowing you into a large circular room. You scratch your head quizzically. In the center of the room, you can see a small island surrounded by a wide trench on which stands a chesticle locked with metal fastenings. The trench is too wide to jump and is very deep. Just inside the door is a length of rope. The door leads from the room opposite the door you came through. Okay. How will you deal with this strange conundrum? Will you ignore the box and walk around the trench? Will you try casting a strength spell and leaping across? Or will you pick up the rope and formulate a plan? We'll ignore the box. You leave through the door and find yourself at a foot of another spiral staircase leading up into the Black Tower. Climbing the stairs, you eventually come to a landing where a single door is the only way onwards. You try the door and it opens slowly. Holy, what the fuck? You feel yourself sucked into a room as if by magic your torch flickers and dies. The room is pitch black. From nowhere, yet everywhere, comes a mocking laugh, which fills the room. "Foolish adventurer," says another voice, which changes its tone from high to low as it speaks.
Welcome to the home of Ganges.
Unfortunately, it will be
The last room you ever see. But of course, you cannot see,
Can you? But we can see you, can't we, brother?
Yes?
and laughing voices come from all around you. Suddenly a ghost's white luminous face flies towards you. You recoil in horror, throwing yourself on the ground and begin to feel very frightened. You lose skill and stamina, and a fucking lucky. That's sucky. I'm gonna pull my, where's my, yeah, I'm gonna go into my backpack. We're gonna use the jar of ointment.
What is this?
Demands a ghostly voice. You bargain with them. You will allow them to take the ointment if they will allow you through the room. You have no business with them. A ghostly hand appears from nowhere and tries to snatch the jar from your hand, but you whip it away quickly. It is indeed the ointment of healing, you hear one of the voices say quietly.
We accept your offer,
Says a voice.
Leave the jar where you are and leave through the door.
A door in the far corner glows softly. You do not trust them and take the jar with you to the door. As you open the door, you fling the jar across the room and leave quietly. You tell them to suck it. You close the door behind you and find yourself at the foot of yet another staircase. Is that a hydra? That's probably a hydra. Spiraling up into the tower, climbing the stairs. Oh yeah, that's a hydra. You arrive at another balcony where a single door is the only way onwards. Trying the door, it opens easily, but as you push the door, a loud hissing noise comes from within. You step inside and turn cold as a huge six-headed hydra snakes towards you over the bodies of its previous victims. Its six serpent-like heads dart at you with vicious pointed teeth. You cower in the corner like a little bitch. So if you know Hercules fighting the Hydra, you know that he used the Golden Fleece. You draw out the skin and the creature hisses loudly. All its heads retreat and it remains still, watching you. There's a door on the far side of the room and you slowly make your way towards it. Halfway across the room, a head darts out and snatches the fleece from your hands, but instead of attacking you, the Hydra slinks back into the corner. You move on to the door cautiously. You slam the door shut behind you. You follow a short, narrow passage which winds round and brings you to the foot of another staircase, reaching right up into the apex of the Citadel. A sign on the wall reads, "Halt! None may pass, but by the order of Balthus Dire." You realize you are nearing your goal. Cautiously, you climb the stairs to the next landing, right up in the belfry of the Citadel. In front of you is a solid metal door. You try the handle, but the door is locked. You lift a small flap and can see a small tumblers underneath. This is a combination lock which can only be opened by those who know the combination. Duh, obviously I know the combination. You turn the handle as carefully as possible so the surprise of whatever awaits you... Wait a minute, did I fuck up? Can I go back? Probably not. Nope. Whoop, shit. Good thing I left a bookmark. Alright, you turn the handle as carefully as possible so as to surprise whatever awaits. Slowly, the door opens and you enter the room, which is dark and lit by a single flickering candle. Your blood drains as you see a single three-pronged trident heading directly for your throat. In a flash, you must decide what you will do. Shielding spell. Yeah. In the nick of time, your spell stops the trident in mid-flight. Horribly close to your neck, it drops to the ground. As you compose yourself after your fright, you glance around the room. It is obviously some sort of military headquarters. Scrolls with strategic maps hang from the walls, as do portraits of past generals. A bookcase in one corner holds hundreds of leather-bound volumes. Ornate drapes are drawn across a large window. A cabinet along one wall holds pikes and swords of a variety of deadly shapes and sizes. In the center of the room is a model landscape which you recognize as the Vale of Willow. Armies with miniature troops are positioned on the model. This must be the invasion plan. Leaning against the table with eyes fixed on you is Balthus Dyer himself. His very stature is formidable, well over 2 meters tall. He's built like an ox, with broad shoulders and muscular arms. In his battle tunic of leather with wide-studded wristbands, he looks more like a soldier than a demi-sorcerer he really is.
Impudent peasant,
He growls.
do you think you're any match for Balthus Dyer?
With these words, he snaps his finger and you hear a grunting from behind. You swing around to see a grotesque creature shambling towards you. Its hairy body has 4 arms, each ending in vicious-looking hooks. As it approaches, it slashes the air in front of you.
Why, I'll wager you're not even a match for my claw beast, laughs Dyer.
How will you defend yourself? I'll cower in the corner, fuck it. Well, let's drop a weakness on it. The beast whimpers as the spell takes effect. The immense weight is indeed a burden without its normal strength. It collapses in a heap, unable to even lift itself from the ground. You step over and run your sword through its chesticle. The unfortunate creature lies dead at your feet. The claw beast lies dead between you and your true enemy, Balthus Dyer, who's surprised at your success.
So, he exclaims, you think yourself stronger than the rest, eh?
We're going to use the ESP spell. You concentrate on the sorcerer's mind. Images of words flash through your head. A couple of seconds later, there's nothing. You look up at Balthus Dyer, who's glaring at you.
Do not try to probe the mind of Balthus Dyer,
he commands. You concentrate again, but still receive nothing, as he's now blocking your spell. You reflect for a second on the images you did receive. A chart under the battle plan table. A sense of horror at the high-pitched screech. A blinding light. A ring on his finger. A razor-edged sword. And you. He is now mumbling under his breath, watching you with one eye. He raises one hand in the air and concentrates his gaze on it. Then he looks at you. He waves his hand in the air, backwards and forwards and side to side, faster and faster.
I am masturbating.
With a crash, he brings down his hand on the table. You fall to the floor, not in surprise, but because the ground beneath you is shaking violently. The whole room seems to be tossing like a ship in the tempest. Although he has firm footing and is now walking towards you, you cannot rise to your feet at all. Your only chance is a spell scroll if you have any left. I do. I got that levitate. You rise into the air. The room continues to shake around you, but you can float freely. You may fly wherever you wish to in the room. I'm going to fly toward the window. His eyes follow you to the window. His pupils have turned milky white. He leans his head back, blinks once, and moans. Snapping his head forward, he now glares at you with eyes that have turned to shining silver. His gaze is hypnotic. You'll have to act quickly. What will you do? We're going to pull the drapes down and throw it over his head. Like Indiana Jones. As the drapes fall, daylight streams into the window. You realize that you have lost all track of time since entering the Citadel. The sun is a welcome relief after your many hours of darkness. A thump makes you turn back towards your adversary. He's lying in a heap on the ground. You take a step forwards and he lets out a blood-curdling scream. "The curtain! You fool!" He gasps in a voice that is obviously weak and dying. Evidently the daylight you have let in is sapping his strength rapidly, and he's trying desperately to crawl into the shadows, but he's too weak to move far, and he slumps to the ground, face downwards. Balthus Dyer, lying at your feet, is dead. Your mission has been completed. The Vale of the Willow is safe from attack, for the time being at least. To make sure his plan is destroyed, you take the drapes from the window and spread them across the table, of which his battle plan is laid out. Taking a candle, you set fire to the ridge curtains. As the flames lick the table, you consider your own escape. Do you have a levitation spell left? If so, you may cast it and float out through the window to safety of the ground below. If not, then you will need to recall your reserves of skill and cunning to avoid the guards and dangers of the Citadel on your escape. But that is another story. I actually do have the levitate left over. Alright folks, we wrapped up yet another book. I'm pretty sure you guys are balls deep in this with me. And wanting to get on to book 3. Do we have book 3 here? Oh yeah, 4 is to do. Cool. See you soon.